Hello and good morning. It is Friday the 25th of June. It is 8:57 here in the UK. My name is Steve Pugh and you've probably seen these most weeks. Hopefully they don't annoy you too much. Some people kind of find them useful. And what I do each week and every week is both introduce you to podcast guests and stuff on Monday, but actually on Fridays we go through some questions and answers, things that have come in on the Roadmap MBA Business Education course. And the reason why we do that is basically within any business course, and within this one we cover everything you need to know to help grow your business or career. But inherently there's always going to be stuff that just isn't covered, or people want clarification on certain items. And then what I also love is that I'll often cover a topic, then after this is finished, people will reach out and say, I didn't quite understand that one, and I'll go back to them. But the whole point of everything I'm trying to do is just add more value to people that are either lifelong learners and want to help develop their business or career. And then likewise, people just want to get promoted, want to sell more, want to stay in business and that kind of thing as well. So as a chartered mechanical engineer, I've always been quite good at problem solving. And for me, business problems are very much like a Rubik's Cube, where actually there is no one thing that I think that you can do or need to do to actually make the impact you want. For me, it's a whole combination of things. So for instance, most kind of training courses will teach you how to sell, or they will teach you about marketing. You don't actually get many on strategy, I think, in some ways, because it's the hardest one to kind of do. But for me, you actually need to use all of these together, all the way, from right at the very start, to do with what are your aims and goals, what is it you want to achieve, what's the whole point of doing everything you're trying to do. It's really important to kind of nail that down, through to the skills and the characteristics and the ways that you want to things you want to communicate with the world. That rolls into your personal brand. And the reason why I touch on that is that for people's perception of you and what you're like to work with, and your tone of voice and your intelligence and your knowledge on certain topics and stuff, this all actually impacts your ability to, in many cases, drive sales. Because if people don't know you, like you, or trust you, they're not going to buy your stuff. And I think often when people go on sales courses, they always talk about how to close people or qualify them or prospect or whichever. But actually the real kind of crux of what people think about you before you even ever get in touch is a really important thing that I tend to cover. And then fast forward all the way through to your business strategy, about what makes you special, what makes you different in the market, through to your marketing. We have 3 modules on sales covering all different types of things. Good morning, Simon, as always. It always makes my day when you join, and it's always the first person as well, so thank you for that, Simon. And then basically, throughout the whole course, we have 3 modules on sales, which goes into all of the best techniques from around the world that I've kind of tailored down to SMEs, and really just make it as quick and simple and easy as possible, because I know how busy everyone is. So the whole point of the roadmap is that you can pick it up for 2 minutes or 2 hours, go into as much or as little depth as you wish. You can even just join the sessions. You can join the classroom sessions that we have on Tuesdays, at the moment 3 o'clock. But I think we're now into 19 different countries. So what I'm also looking at is different time slots to also do, probably one early morning and then one later on at night, to help people in different parts of the world. And again, part of that is that, I have big ambitions for this and everything I'm trying to do. That actually, our mission is to make business education accessible. And if I don't make the classroom sessions accessible and stuff to people around the world, I'm not fulfilling my mission. So there's a lot of stuff that I want to do, and hopefully over the next kind of 6 months, you'll see a lot of change. So that's the first kind of 4 minutes. Sorry if I've kind of just spieled that at you. But I'd love to know whereabouts you are in the world. Please kind of drop a message in the chat. As I always mention, if you've got any questions, please drop them in, or you can email questions@roadmapmba.com. And then what I've also got today is 3 really interesting topics. One is kind of a case study, and this is how you can improve performance by up to 40%. And this is actually to do with your sleep, which I'm going to talk about, but actually something I've been doing a lot of homework on, because this is what I kind of live and breathe. And again, just on that kind of point, that as an engineer, I'm very good at solving problems. So the way that I treat any new information is actually to kind of piece it together and see how it could work. And then if it's of use, I kind of share it back to you. So that'll be quite interesting. One is actually something that came up this week from some of my clients, which is, as you go through your business year, you can plan all the stuff in the world. But actually, when things come in or things change, there's always a need to react to new information. And it's also, it's really worth knowing, how do you do that? Why do you do that? What's the point? because a lot of people just, they don't react to the world around them. So I'm going to touch on that one. Good morning, Jonathan, as always. Thank you for getting in touch. Middlesbrough as well, close to my heart. And then last but not least, something which is close to Simon's heart is I'm going to talk about mental health a little bit. And bear in mind, I am not a mental health first aider. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the nuts and bolts, but just from an entrepreneurship performance point of view, it's something I'm going to touch on, which, it's just to share some of my thoughts that I think are some of the kind of warning flags and stuff as well. Good morning from Romania. Wow. I've never had anyone from Romania before. So I'd love to know, what do you do? Can you put a link in the blog? I'd love to learn more about your product or service. Excuse me. Oh, okay. No, honestly, I love it when people get involved, because every Friday morning I kind of make time to do this. And actually, you never know if anyone's going to tune in or not, so I'm really glad that they do. But yes, I'd love to know whereabouts. Obviously, you're in Romania, but just kind of what you do and how it works. And then likewise, if you have any questions, please kind of feel free to get in touch. So I'm going to start with the main one for this week, which is actually how to improve performance by up to 40%. So actually, this chap is a guy called Matthew Walker. British guy based out of California. He's at university in Berkeley. And actually what he does, and I found out this morning doing my homework, he's actually from Liverpool. So he's actually from my hometown. And I kind of knew, I couldn't tell where the accent was from, because obviously he's very polished now and he does a lot of media stuff. But what he does and what his research and life's work has been about is actually what is sleep, how to get better sleep, how to increase performance, but then likewise the benefits that can have on your lifespan. And I just thought it was interesting because, me especially, I go through a hell of a lot of books and different things, all trying to, boost performance and improve my skill set. And sleep is one of those really fundamental things that actually people often don't estimate. So one of the things that's really important, if you look at your hierarchy of kind of fitness and what makes a difference to people's careers. So this is health, yeah. So the three main areas that people often associate with health, if that makes sense, is diet, exercise, and sleep. Because actually without all three of those, if you had a terrible diet, your health and performance and stuff is going to be pretty bad. If you don't exercise, again, we all kind of know that one. But the sleep is a really interesting one. But actually something that Matthew argues is that actually that shouldn't be there. Sleep should actually be here. Because studies have shown that actually without sleep or without quality sleep, actually it can degrade performance like crazy fast and actually has a massive impact. So the way that Matthew talks about it is almost that sleep is the fundamental building block to performance, and this is personal performance, the way your mind works, but also your health as well. I'm just going to jump back to the chat. No questions yet. Early hours of the day. Fair enough. But I love getting in touch. And likewise, okay, oil and gas market, me too. That's my background as well. I used to do a lot of stuff in kind of, Northern Europe and companies that work in the engineering design kind of space or that make physical products. But no, thank you for getting in touch. And I appreciate the chat. And you've probably noticed by now that this pops up on the screen as well. But no, thank you for getting in touch. But the thing that's really important actually with sleep and why I think it's really worth talking to is that actually, yes, it helps, but one of the main benefits is actually your memory intake. So this is actually where, if you're learning something, and it could be personal development stuff, it could be an exam, it could be whichever, both good sleep before and after you've tried to learn something actually helps cement it into the brain. And it's one of those things I didn't necessarily know, but there's a hell of a lot of studies on it. It's just really interesting to look at. Good sleep also boosts your immune system. The correlation between good sleep or bad sleep and things like cancer and stuff is actually massive. It's a lot bigger than you might think. And actually it's really important. And what I'm going to touch on is ways to get better sleep and different things as well. But actually, and then last but not least, relating to this, good sleep can also improve your life. span, which makes sense because actually if you get good sleep and good rest and your body is healthier, it's going to be more likely to fight off disease and illness and cancers and that kind of thing, to actually live longer. And it's just really interesting to do. So what I'm going to do is touch on a few different ways to achieve that, but also why it's important and different things that you can do as well. So I'm going to touch on the benefits of sleep a little bit more before I go into ways to kind of help with it. So I've talked about the foundations for fitness and kind of good health. But there's also a really good thing to memory recall and almost just cognitive performance. And what was really interesting that I just thought I'd share. So this is time of night. I'll do 10 p.m, 7 a.m. Is that I think we all kind of know that when you sleep, we go into different stages of sleep. So at the top is awake. And then you have what most people know is REM sleep, which is almost there. But then actually there's 4 stages, 1, 2, 3, 4, of something called NREM sleep. And basically this is your deeper cognitive sleep that actually if you have a good night's sleep, obviously you fall asleep and you track between these different areas over the course of the night before you wake up. But what's really interesting is actually when you get down to these deeper stages of sleep, this is actually where your mind and your subconscious actually processes a lot of information. So stuff that you've seen throughout the day or problems that you're working on or whichever. It's in these different types of sleep and different areas of sleep do you really get your real kind of superpower. It's the power of your brain to really process stuff. It happens at this time of the night. And the reason why this is really important is that this actually helps your ability to learn things, but actually to perform and to process good information and bad information. And people always say that when time heals all wounds, and Matthew's argument is actually it's not time, it's time while sleeping heals all wounds. But it's just the kind of thing that when you're looking at how to improve the performance of your sleep, there are different ways to do it. One is actually to reduce caffeine and alcohol. Both are proven to interrupt our sleep patterns. And basically what that means is you get less of the good level 3, level 4 NREM sleep. Get into a routine. Matthew talks about how even, yes, through the week, you might go to bed at 10 p.m. and wake up at 6 or whatever. But actually for optimum conditions, if you can follow that through to the weekend, it really kind of helps. And you also get like a build-up of sleep, so that if you have a really heavy weekend and don't really get your sleep in, that does build up over time and it follows through to the next week. Reduce light levels. This is also interesting that at the moment this room, because I have all the camera equipment, is very, very bright. But basically bright lights tell your brain to wake up. And you know, there's lots of chemical things which in the books and stuff I've read from Matthew that almost control your sleep. But actually the same is true. So if you're trying to go to sleep and get better sleep, reducing your time on your phone, when you start to kind of calm down, turning the main lights off in the room, and just gradually chilling down, I think is always really important. Reduce temperature. I think we've all had it as well, where especially if you're on holiday and it's really hot and you can't sleep and you just can't get to that level. I think it's 1.5 degrees is the average body temperature drop when you actually go to sleep. But you can get to sleep faster if you actually reduce the temperature in your room and gradually kind of work on that. And all of this will help improve performance, but actually improve your ability for the brain to heal the body, but likewise process information. And then likewise, something else I'm going to touch on now is also, it's called your circadian rhythm. And why this is really important, because I didn't know this until quite recently, is that when we all kind of sleep, so again, that's time of night. We all actually have different what are called circadian rhythms, which is some of us are early morning people, which I'm not really. I'm okay, I'm probably in the middle. And you also have kind of night owls. And what's interesting is that if this was 11 p.m, and again 7 a.m, some people are happily to be wide awake till the early hours of the morning, get some sleep and then go back up. But other people actually need to go to bed earlier, but then they wake up earlier. And the truth is, and it's been biologically proven, people just are different. But the important thing is if you're a night owl, just learn to embrace that and work around it. Or if you're an early morning kind of person, just get into your own rhythm. But all of these things actually will genuinely help improve kind of performance. And again, this is like hardwired. Your chronotype is what type of, do you like to get up in the mornings? Do you not? It's not something that we can necessarily control. Routine definitely helps. But what I wanted to do was just in this kind of quick, few minutes was just talk about some areas that I'm personally trying to work on my sleep to help improve performance, the ability to solve problems and deal with stress and that kind of thing. And just from the research, I just thought for 10 minutes it was worth talking about. I'm just going to catch up on hi, good morning, Denise. Good morning, Manuel from London. Oh, cool, geologist. I love it when people get in touch, and thank you. Obviously, you'll see it pops up. But no, please get in touch. Please tell me where you're from and kind of what you do. It's always kind of cool to know, and I appreciate any comments or interaction or feedback or whichever. And hopefully the kind of short section on sleep was quite interesting. For me, we all read performance books, and actually I'm in the middle of this one. So it's called Relentless by Tim Grover. So Tim actually trained Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and a lot of other Dwayne Wade basketball players. I play basketball myself. I've always been a big fan. So for me, it's almost a perfect balance between a business performance mindset book that happens to be about one of my idols, which is Kobe Bryant. But actually, I'm about halfway through it now. I ordered it from Amazon after a recommendation from a friend. Really, really good book if you're into this kind of thing. I think for me, it's better because I'm into basketball, but actually I'll do a review on this sometime soon. But my point is, I read a lot of stuff to almost get the inspiration to then use in my own life and my own business. And actually, when I learned the stuff about sleep, this is something that costs nothing, impacts all of us. And actually, there are little things that we can do to improve performance. So I just wanted to kind of share it. Manuel, I tend to sleep less in wintertime. How come? Interesting question, because most people you would think would normally sleep more in winter. I must say, I'm personally not a sleep expert, so I don't know the answer to that question. You could actually, I'm surprised at that, because when it goes darker earlier, I think in some ways that's encouraging you to go to sleep earlier. So actually it's probably the opposite of what you would expect. But I don't know the answer. I will try and find out, and I'll come back to you next week. But no, cool. Thank you for the question. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is jump onto my next one. So my next point that I'm going to touch on is actually how to and why to react to managerial information. So most of us probably have some sort of business or career meetings that we're involved in. We're part of a team where actually the aim is to create a sustainable business that does its thing and works well and produces a profit and delivers great stuff for customers. And what's quite funny is that actually when you, again, talk about business books or business courses or whichever, they all talk about how to sell more and how to promote more and how to basically grow a business. And that is exactly what I cover on the Roadmap MBA. But what's quite funny is that for most companies, if you have revenue, over time, yes, you want to grow it. And there are always things that you can do to help put in place, and this could be policies, procedures, new marketing materials, websites, sales tracking, management features, finance meetings, whatever. There's lots of stuff, and again, we cover it all in the course that you can implement to help improve performance. But sometimes things don't go to plan, and actually what you need to do is take that information, process it, pivot, and decide what to do next before you kind of move forward, because it's not always 100% towards the goal, growth. And one of the things that I just wanted to kind of talk about is that when we all have the ability to make decisions in business, often we go for the high growth option where we want to increase sales or take on that contract, which is slightly more risky, but actually you have higher rewards. So actually, if you want faster growth, you have increased risk, lower growth, lower risk. And it's funny actually, what almost got to mind, I'm still waiting for Matthew Ward to pop up. Matthew normally comments most weeks, is that I actually think that business in many ways is like golf. And the reason is that yes, you can go for the big drive, you can go for the big hit and try and get round in as fewer shots as possible. But occasionally when things go wrong or cash becomes a little bit tighter and or just things happen, you might have some staff issues, someone could be on paternity leave, it could be one of 100 different things. It was almost just a mindset difference that yes, you might be on this high growth path and things will really work and you're growing the company, it's going really well. But actually, sometimes it's okay to play back to the fairway, steady the ship, just figure out where you're at, what makes you comfortable, get controlled again, and actually level off and then accelerate again. You don't always have to be full on attack all the time. And it's that kind of thing, just the ability and the decision to actually say, look, guys, I know that we have a plan to grow the company by 20% this year. And we've got all these sales KPIs and stuff. But actually for the next month or the next 2 months, what we're going to do is steady the ship, get all of our ducks in order, get our operations running, get everything kind of working as good as it humanly can. And then once we've done that and once we're over the rough patch, then we accelerate again. And one way to do that is that when you have, if you're involved in any management or finance kind of meetings, you obviously track your profit and loss every month. So you get to see your obviously revenue, your gross profit, your net profit, any costs on different things. And especially in like a project-based business, which if you look at revenues over time, if you had a Coca-Cola that sells a lot of stuff every single day and it'd be quite predictable, Coca-Cola's revenue is probably fairly constant over the course of a year because they have 100 million retailers in 100 countries and actually their revenue will be pretty standard. With a project-based business and also smaller kind of businesses, you might have nothing, massive spike, nothing, spike, nothing, spike. But then what that does, it creates issues to do with cash flow that, for instance, if you are to conduct that project and actually do that stuff, you actually have to often buy the stuff before you sell for it. So you have probably costs there, but then your payment for this might not come until here. And when you're actually looking at your payment terms in terms of how you actually, complete these contracts and do stuff, if you suddenly become worried about cash flow because of a major project that you've won, so the business is doing really well, but actually just things change, you need that feedback mechanism to actually be able to say from finance to sales and vice versa, look, I think we just hold back for a little bit, get our ducks in order, get our cash in before we keep going for these big hitter projects. And in the golf analogy, it's almost just a little chip back onto the fairway, just to be back in safe ground before you then try and drive again, rather than trying to hit out the trees. And it was just this kind of thing that I'd never seen it particularly in any management or growth books. The concept of take the information and decide to slow down, get composed, and then accelerate again, or put things on hold or whichever. And it's that feedback mechanism is really important. And I can't remember what page it's on. It's the end of module 6. There's a double page spread on how to become world class. And it was taken from a report that Bain did, which was all, so a global kind of consultancy about best practice. And what you really want is that management and the information flow up and down a business to really kind of help educate everyone so everyone makes the same decisions. Because what often happens is that you will get direction from often the company directors that say, look, we want 20% growth and we want it regardless. Or you might hear back that production is a bit slow at the moment, so we really need sales. So what that can do is make sales actually make different decisions based on the feedback that they're getting for the business. But then that can have a longer impact. But the point is, it's the management flow of information up and down the company at all levels is really, really important just to help you grow. And what I want to do is just talk about it because you often don't see it. I apologize for how messy the scribble is, but hopefully that kind of makes sense. I'm just going to check back to the comments. Look at this fancy setup. Hi, Kennedy. So Kennedy, I don't have the hair that you have or the personality or the podcast. So what I do is just make the best of what I have with cameras and stuff. If you don't know Kennedy, the mind reader, he has an excellent email podcast called the Email Marketing Show, I believe. If I got that wrong, please kind of comment. Really good guy, really interesting, very specialist in his area. Really interesting guy as well, so please kind of follow Kennedy as well. And Denise, yes, I know you're not a golfer, but the analogy of the safe chip back onto the fairway, it's not getting you further forward, but it's just playing safe for a certain amount of time, is something that, you know, a lot of business people do like golf. I'm kind of on the fence. I probably haven't played for about 2 years now. But hopefully that analogy still kind of works, just to explain. Sometimes it's okay to kind of slow down, take your time, and then just, you know, move forward. It doesn't have to be 100% flat out all the time. Cool, I'm just gonna get a very quick drink. So we're 9:23. I'm going through my stuff quite quick actually today, which is good. It was my birthday on Monday. So my wife and I were going to Glasgow this weekend, which is quite cool. And it's just for some time off. And actually, as a seamless segue, if I then go into kind of mental health and always just dealing with pressure, one of the things that I've really kind of found, just, you know, since you work for yourself, but I guess it's true all throughout your career, is that with mental health, it's a really funny one because everyone has a different baseline for what they deem as normal. That some people are more resilient than others, but then likewise, everyone has different pressures and stuff going on, either with their home life or their work life, or to do with family or health or finances or whatever. But actually, the concepts that I wanted to share and talk about, just from a business perspective, was almost how to deal with that, or for me, one way that I find to kind of deal with that. So with everyone, it doesn't matter what job you do, or if you're a Buddhist monk or you're a gardener or whichever, we all have different stress levels. And then that'll be time. And then what I thought was quite interesting is that for business and business performance and stuff, I'd say if your stress level's probably below a 5, you could argue, do you need to push yourself a little bit harder? You know, if that's the life you want, that's, you know, absolutely fine. But actually, you know, are you going to achieve everything you possibly could if you're just kind of coasting along, happy as, you know, Larry, that kind of thing. But then likewise, you also have your probably optimum performance zone where you're working hard, you're doing the hours, but actually you know when to stop, you know when to take breaks. And actually, you know, that for me would be a 7 or an 8, where actually it's probably your performance zone, where actually you get a lot of stuff done, but you know when to stop, you know when to take a break, and actually that's the way to be the most efficient, but you can sustain it over time. I know I seem to talk about my wife a lot on these kind of podcasts, but it's true that when I was younger, when I was probably in my early 20s, when I was doing my PhD and I'd started my first business, I was doing crazy hours. I was doing a full-time job, and then at home running the business, I was staying up till like stupid o'clock. And again, linking back to the sleep point, I wasn't sustainable. And at times you have to do that, where actually you're working hard, but you know it's making an impact and you're physically tired off the back of that. And basically that is almost when you get to your 10. And that's your danger zone, where occasionally when actually you're doing your job or doing whatever it is you know, just doing everyday life, if you were to take an average month of what you're doing, it probably wouldn't be uncommon that you're about here, then you'll have some bad days, or you might be able to operate here. But the idea is you find what works for you and just your own kind of work schedule. And, you know, when you get stuff done and you're happy and you get the right work-life balance, etc. But one of the things I just wanted to almost talk about is that we all have different graphs, but then likewise at different times of the year. If you find yourself operating here almost too much of the time, you're kind of in the danger zone where you're not sleeping properly. Because the theme of sleep today, which wasn't intentional, but you're not sleeping properly, people are asking a lot of you, you're unhappy, it's starting to affect your health, and actually you're in this zone too long. I think that's almost at the point where you have to prioritize yourself and actually look, take a break, take a holiday. Arguably, question, is what you're doing actually what you want to do in life? And it was almost that I think it's quite a useful tool, just over time, just over the course of a month, just say, actually, you know what, today I was a 7, Yesterday was a 5, that was an 8. But if you find yourself being a 9 or a 10 for too long, where you're kind of at breaking point, you know, more days than you would like within a month, what you should do is just use that as a warning flag to actually say, look, is this sustainable? What can I do to make a change? And then either flag it with your manager or whatever you deem appropriate for whatever it is that you do. Or likewise, if you're a solo entrepreneur, kind of like I am, just actually saying to clients, look, no, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to do this, this, and this. But you kind of have to look after yourself, because if you don't, nobody else will. And it was just in the context of kind of business performance and that kind of thing. I hadn't seen many people talk about it. That I think because everyone has different thresholds and different struggles and different pressures and stuff, it's very difficult to cover a lot of areas. But actually, we all have our own scale where only you will know at what point are you comfortable and if it's sustained. And basically, if it goes on for too long, maybe it's time to make a change. So what are we on? So we're on 9:28. Unless there's any questions that kind of come in, I'm just going to check my sheet. So I've done the improved sleep, reacting to information, mental health. I've kind of done all my stuff this week, which is quite cool. I'm going to do one last plug for the Roadmap MBA. So if you haven't seen this or you haven't got a copy yet, we're now in 19 different countries, from, England, Ireland, Scotland, Denmark, Singapore, Nigeria, China, USA. And what's really brilliant is just for me is that, so I launched the course in February this year. So it's been going for pretty much 17, 18 weeks. And for me, what I really enjoy is just giving value and doing the best I can. That I always say that actually, I don't mind if I fail, as long as I do the best I can to kind of give it a crack, give it a shot. So actually within this and within the classroom sessions, which some of the guys on the chat join, on Mondays, I interview business leaders that I think have something interesting to share or talk about, which might help your business or career. That's just a passive thing that hopefully it's some inspiration, but actually it's real people that I think you can relate to, or I hope to. On Tuesdays at 3 p.m, we have our classroom sessions on Zoom, and it's similar setup to this, no chat, but actually it's a Zoom session where we talk and we go through the different modules. And we're about to go on to marketing next, and then the 3 modules on sales. But actually the big point and the USP of the course is that, yes, you can have all the information, and yes, there's lots of different ways that you can get it, but the ability to ask questions about your own business or career, how do I do this? What do I do? How does it work? Is the real USP. That fortunately, I think it's just because I'm an engineer and very good at solving problems, I do treat business and business related stuff as almost a science kind of problem as an engineer, and that's the way that I approach it. So even down to our mission is making business education accessible, but really kind of simplifying concepts down that, for instance, most people don't have 10 hours to read all on sleep and go into all this detail, and actually do they even know it's relevant? So if I can distill it down to a 10-minute video where actually I give you the main bits by saying, look, sleep is good, this is how you can get more, this is how it'll help. What I'm trying to do is just help my audience, which is oftentimes poor, just make those little improvements. If you want to join, great. If you don't, no worries, that's fine. And it's that kind of thing that I'm doing through, but yes, I'm going to look at some extra time slots too. And then just on Fridays, I like to do this just as a bit of interaction with different people, and they always ask different questions, because again, there's a lot of stuff that people don't want to ask publicly. Today we haven't actually covered anything which is to do with someone. You have a lot of people that want to start their own business, which I haven't covered any today, but that's a lot of the main stuff. And the idea is I can just act as someone that is hopefully quite good at this stuff. I do it myself, and likewise, you get a lot of business coaches that talk the talk, but actually, how are they executing since they've launched? What have they done? And almost that for me is the proof in the pudding, that you can physically see me doing this stuff with the roadmap, that this is how I'm executing. Kind of, 17, 18 weeks in. This is all on a 10-year plan for me, that what I'm trying to achieve over time. Hopefully you will see it build over time. If I don't, you will see me fail. But actually, I'm just doing my best, and I love the kind of interaction. So thank you for the support. So my name's Steve Pugh. What we answer on 9:32. Thank you for your time as always. Have a wonderful weekend if I don't see you. If you've got any questions through the Roadmap MBA, you can send them through to questions@roadmapmba.com. Hopefully I will catch you on Monday for my next interview guest. And cool. Have a nice weekend, guys. Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.